North London Derby, where does the balance of power lie between Arsenal and Spurs? Arsenal must have hoped that the photograph back in 2012 of Arsène Wenger's young British core all signing new contracts together would eventually prove iconic. Jenkinson, Aaron Ramsey, Jack Wilshere, Kieran Gibbs and Oxlade-Chamberlain simultaneously agreed new deals beneath photographs of Wenger celebrating both the Invincible season and his first double as manager. Theo Walcott also soon followed, and Wenger explained how he was building a squad with more local players who would be more likely to show loyalty to the club at its core. It was a noble enough idea, but what ultimately let him down was not any lack of buy-in from the players, but instead their collective failure to develop into anything resembling a group who could win the Premier League. Only Ramsey is a regular. Now look at Tottenham. Did Delali, Kyle Walker, Kieran Trippier, Danny Rose, Harry Winks, Ben Davis and Harry Kane have inherently more potential? Few would have said so before Mauricio Pochettino's input. What was once Arsenal's great selling point is now Tottenham's biggest strength. Gallery, athletes' bold confession 10 years after the photo. Gallery, athletes' bold confession 10 years after the photo. OMG. 5 top antivirus products. Number 1 will shock you. 5 top antivirus products. Number 1 will shock you. Ruthlessness. The anecdotes regarding Daniel Levy's negotiating style have become the stuff of legend, and, while those on the receiving end have not always enjoyed the experience, the overall benefit to Tottenham is clear. Big players are invariably on long contracts, and, although Spurs are fond of saying that star names are not for sale, they do make major sales on their own terms. Advertising. The contract countdowns that Arsenal now face with Alexis Sanchez, Mesut Ozil and Jack Wilshere, and perhaps also soon with Aaron Ramsey, Danny Welbeck, Olivier Giroud and Petr Cech, are hard to imagine at Spurs. They have also been helped by the ruthless clarity in Pochettino's decision-making. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain et al. Jenkinson, Aaron Ramsey, Jack Wilshere, Kieran Gibbs and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain sign new deals in 2012. Credit, Action Images. The key moments were across 2015-16 after a fairly disappointing first season. There was no great fanfare, but Pochettino simply waved goodbye to a very long list of players: Andros Townsend, Emmanuel Adber, Aaron Lennon, Roberto Soldado, Yuns Cable, Etienne Capoue, Benoit Suikoto, Benjamin Stambouli, Lewis Holtby, Vlad Chiriches and Paulino. While each individual case will have differed, a certain message about his expectations has stuck. Wenger has chosen a different approach with Sanchez and Ozil, and their performances so far this season have done little to justify the financial gamble of keeping them. Pochettino follows a very deliberate strategy in his player recruitment at both Tottenham and previously Southampton by building lean and genuinely multifunctional squads. With the exception perhaps of Kane, every outfield player can operate in at least two fairly distinct positions. Not only does that provide more options during matches, but it has helped build total buy-in among a tight group for a physically imposing style of high-pressing football. Pochettino has built a squad of multifunctional players. Pochettino has built a squad of multifunctional players. Credit, Nigel French, Pa. On any given day, Spurs can overwhelm even the very best opponents, and yet this is potentially also a point of weakness. A perceived tendency of Pochettino teams to fade was partially answered last season, but the certainty of Champions League involvement after Christmas will bring a very different challenge. It is a period in the season when Arsenal's greater quality in numbers could still prove telling. Arsenal's depth has been evident already this season in how Wenger has been fielding different but comparably powerful teams in the Europa League and Premier League, creating a positive narrative. An intangible but major strength for Tottenham is the gathering momentum and sense of wider project. That is most visibly evident in the new stadium, and everyone associated with the club seems to feel they are aboard a journey towards the elite of European football. Tottenham's new ground rises as they bade farewell to the old. Tottenham's new ground rises as they bade farewell to the old. Credit, Ian Kington/AFP/Getty Images. Pochettino's star could also hardly be brighter, and his profile has been boosted further during this past month with the publication of a new book, Brave New World, about life at Spurs. The extent of the internal detail, though, was unusual, and it is just conceivable that it could rebound at some stage. It is certainly not something Wenger would contemplate. I don't like to talk and not tell the truth, and, as long as you are in work, you cannot really tell what is going on, said Wenger. Just to sell a book? If it is to tell really what I think about some aspects of our game, I will do it, but at the moment it is impossible. Wenger, though, needs to be proactive in reversing the general narrative. A record 7th FA Cup seemed to be forgotten soon after he left Wembley in May, and, in keeping Sanchez and Ozil, the opportunity to start boldly on a new cycle last summer was lost. It is hard just now to clearly pinpoint the current group's wider identity. Results. The Spurs manager is rightly proud of his team's development over the past 3 years, but the argument for an emphatic power shift remains undermined by the respective on-field outcomes. In 3 completed seasons, Spurs have finished below Arsenal twice and above them once. They also accumulated 1 fewer point and 2 fewer trophies. These are bottom-line facts, and, while Tottenham are 4 points ahead this season, evidence for their perceived dominance is currently founded more on future expectation than results. Arsenal's continuing uncertainty over Mesut Ozil and Alexis Sanchez would never have been allowed to happen by Daniel Levy. Arsenal's continuing uncertainty over Mesut Ozil and Alexis Sanchez would never have been allowed to happen by Daniel Levy. Credit, David Price, Arsenal FC via Getty Images. Arsenal, though, are again threatened next year by the likely need to replace Sanchez and Ozil, as well as deepening uncertainty over others. Tottenham have brilliantly outperformed their wage and transfer spend recently, but both may make them susceptible to offers for their best players. Pochettino himself also hardly looked shy during the recent visit to Real Madrid. And so, while we can certainly say that Tottenham have the best young players, the momentum and a team in superior form, the depth and likely sustainability of any wider power shift in North London is easily exaggerated.